I saw Florio tweeting, and listen, Florio sometimes in the offseason, he just starts tweeting madness. He was talking the other day about something like the Fanatics party because they're in gambling. Like the NFL should crack down. It's like nobody cares. There's a big difference between going to a Fanatics party and having some vodka sodas with Michael Rubin and Robert Kraft than there is betting the over under on your own running back in a game. Like, I'm sorry. I saw people, it's all universal. It's all under one umbrella. No, it's not. What Isaiah Rodgers did might be the most dumb, like, idiotic thing since like Pete Rose. Can't be betting on your own team. Even if you're betting on them to win, it's just can't be doing that. Andrew Luck he was tweeting about Andrew Luck. He's Hall of Fame eligible. Like it was a controversial statement to say he's not getting the Hall of Fame. Of course he's not getting into the Hall of Fame. Andrew Luck is not a Hall of Famer. Now, there have been players with short-lived careers that have made it, right? Way before my time. I think Gale Sayers. Right when I was coming into my own as a sports fan, Terrell Davis. Kurt Warner's career was a little longer, but he kind of had like a couple little peaks. All those guys include championships. Terrell Davis, multiple championships. Kurt Warner, championship. If Andrew Luck had won a Super Bowl, I would say it would be a conversation. But not only did he not win a Super Bowl, he never got to one. I think the crazy part about just the headline is he's Hall of Fame eligible is it really brings into play for how awesome it could have been, for how much fun it should have been, for how he was destined to be a Hall of Fame player. If he didn't, I don't know, just retire out of nowhere. Now, he had been banged up. I was looking at his game logs. By his third season in the NFL, and remember, it's a unique worst team in the NFL because they had Peyton Manning and they had been awesome. And you had just removed Peyton Manning. I think I might have said this on the podcast, but I read somewhere recently that Polian had this. No, it wasn't Polian. It was Tom Moore, the offensive coordinator. When John Gruden used to go to the practices when he was doing Monday Night Football, and he'd go to the practices and he'd see that the backup never got any reps at practice. And Gruden was like flummoxed. What are we doing here? And Tom Moore said, well, if Peyton goes down, we're fucked. And we don't practice fucked. And clearly you removed Peyton Manning from that equation. They immediately had the number one overall pick. But when he got there, they did have Reggie Wayne. They had Freeney. They had Robert Mathis. They had some good players. And they immediately drafted T.Y. Hilton. But Andrew Luck, by his third season, threw 40 touchdowns, 16 picks, and had them in the conference championship game. Now, they got boat raced by the New England Patriots, but they were there. And then the injury started happening. He only played 7 games in 15. By 16, he threw 31 touchdowns. Then he missed the entire year in 17. And then his last season in the NFL, 39 touchdowns and 15 picks. When he was healthy, full seasons, 11 wins, 11 wins, 11 wins. And then his final season, 10 wins. And that was with Chuck Pagano, who was a terrible head coach, and Ryan Grigson, who hates me for saying this, thinks I talk shit about him. He was a terrible GM. He just was. Like, you don't get credit for drafting Andrew Luck. But it really is sad because I think the cool part about sports is when you see a talent and then that guy lives up to the talent, right? We're going to talk about Victor Wembanyama. You see it, it's like, God, I've never seen anything quite like this. So what's cool about like Trevor Lawrence, like ultimately Justin Herbert's success, or even Patrick Mahomes, they didn't have nearly as much hype as the hype guys, right? Like a guy like if Jalen Carter becomes a Hall of Fame player, it'll be like, God, everyone said he fell in the draft, but everyone knew he was the most talented guy in the draft, right? Trevor Lawrence, they said this guy was the best prospect since whoever. Andrew Luck. Nick Bosa was a can't miss player. And then they become Hall of Fame players. That's what's cool to me about sports. I love the Patrick Mahomes and Herberts who aren't the highly talked about guy. But anytime you can have all the pressure in college, get drafted number 1 or number 2, have all the pressure, and then live up to it. Because you know what happens to most guys? They're Zach Wilson. They can't handle it. They just fail. Or hell, they're not even that bad. They're like Sammy Watkins, who was drafted really high and just never lives up to the hype. Andrew Luck immediately lived up to the hype and started winning playoff games and was throwing 35 to 40 touchdowns a year. And you can give me through a lot of picks. I don't give a shit. Just watch him play. I know you can't now because it's been 5 years. But back in the day, if you watched him and didn't think he was good, I don't know what to tell you. And it just ended. And it ended way too fast. He's also, what's cool about sports is you can't predict this stuff. Who in a million years would be like, oh yeah, Andrew Luck, just 2018, he'll just retire. He'll never be seen again. No, he's not going to do like a fake retire. He's not going to kind of tap out. He's going to just quit and just be gone. And he did. Like, I do respect it. I don't necessarily, I can't agree or not agree. It's not my life. If I was a Colts fan, I would have been really mad. I do respect, like, I don't really like the kind of half in, half out, right? Like what Aaron Rodgers done for a couple years, what Brett Favre did forever. It's like, give me a break, you know? Even LeBron, who starts threatening you're going to retire, like, give me a break. Andrew Luck never talked about retirement, just retires and is never seen again. I respect it for sticking by his guns. It kind of hit me watching Victor Wembanyama on, it would have been Sunday night, and he scored a bunch of points. Never seen anything like him. I mean, he's like Kevin Durant mixed with Yao Ming size. It's just crazy. But the number one pick in the NBA draft and the number one pick in the NFL draft are almost 2 feet apart. One guy's 7'6", and the other guy's barely 5'10". I don't really have a hot take on it, but it's just a crazy. Bill Parcells' thing was, you got to be careful drafting exceptions or outliers, because eventually when you give into that, you have a team full of exceptions or outliers. And I love Bryce Young. I thought the guy that we watched in college in the SEC was brilliant and dominant. But I do understand people saying that his size is a major concern, right? He's barely 5'10". I know he weighed in close to 200 pounds at the combine. Most people in the NFL believe that he was playing at like low, mid 180s at most. And Victor Wembanyama, if you're taller, right? If Bryce Young was 6'4", he would have been one of the elite prospects of the last 20 years. But part of being an elite prospect isn't just accuracy, being able to read the field, right? Just having the arm strength. It's kind of body size. Look at the top players in the NFL. Did you watch the match with Mahomes, Kelsey, Clay, and Steph? Did you see Mahomes just standing next to Kelsey, a tight end, and Klay Thompson, who technically is a shooting guard, small forward? He's kind of a hybrid player. Like, just physically, he looks just kind of just like him. Even Steph. People act like Steph's small. Steph Curry's closer to 6'4" than he is 6'2". And he's put on a lot of muscle over the years. Patrick Mahomes physically he doesn't quite look like Josh Allen or John Elway, but he ain't small. All the top quarterbacks are big. And we talked about it with Tua. It's just hard when a guy like Aaron Donald or Nick Bosa or Myles Garrett or whoever, every team has these guys, gets their hands on you and slams you into the ground. I'm not pivoting off Bryce Young. I think he's a really good player, but I do understand the concerns. No different. I don't claim to be Jerry West here, but it is hard to watch Victor Wembanyama. Has all these skills. I think he's not going to get hurt. If you're just a 6'6" player and you fall into him, you're not falling into his stomach or his abs. You're more likely like falling into his kneecap. He is enormous. Never seen anything like it. He looks like a guy who's just going to get hurt. I hope he doesn't. I'm rooting for him to stay healthy. But if he just has a 15-year career and the majority is health, I'd be a little stunned.